Today in the Larson garage I have my 1985 CJ7. I got it in here to do some maintenance and a few other sort of updates for the 2021 season. But in this video I just wanted to sort of do an overview, tell you what's been done to it so far, and then obviously you can follow along now on the YouTube channel and see what we're going to do to it going forward. So I've owned it for maybe 11 or 12 years now. It's been in the condition that you see here for about the last 10 years. We originally pulled it out of a gentleman's yard the next town over, brought it home, pulled it all apart, sandblasted the frame, sort of went through and touched every nut and bolt on it. So it's powered by a fuel-injected Chevy 350. Now it's the generation just before the LS. The motor came out of a 99 Chevy Bam. The transmission is an SM465. It's an older truck transmission, so it has a real low sort of granny first gear, which is a 6.5 to 1. The only downside to that transmission is that it does not have overdrive. Behind the transmission is adapted to a Dana 300, which is the factory transfer case from this Jeep, through a Novak adapter. With that, we have the twin stick conversion on it, and then put in the Terralo 4 to 1 gears into the transfer case. Then power goes to a set of Dana 44s, front and rear, that came out of an International Scout. They have 410 gears in them, and a aux cable locker up front, and a Detroit full-time locker in the rear. The tub is a YJ tub that we swapped on, so it has the family style roll bar in the back, and then just swapped over the CJ dash, windshield, tailgate. The suspension on the Jeep is YJ leaf springs front and rear, sprung over the Dana 44s, 35-inch tall tires. So the front axle has the high steer conversion, 1-ton swap, and it has a hydraulic assist, which on these old CJs you can drill and tap the power steering box and just run the lines right from that factory box, and then just run the lines in the piston. So these front fenders are homemade flat fenders. So we took the original fender, sort of cut the front of it off, bent up this pipe, see in there. So we bent this pipe up. I actually bent it on one of those Harbor Freight kink benders. We just filled the pipe up with sand and had decent luck with it not kinking. So it does have essentially like a 6-inch flare you can see sticking out from the tub to try and cover the tire as much as we could. And then integrated the factory marker light back into it. Up top it's just a sort of steel plate, and then just sort of blended everything in together. And then going on to the rocker guards, so sort of same thing. It's actually the same pipe on that. Now in order to get the Dana 44 from the International Scout mounted in here, we had to move the front spring perches outboard of the frame. The International Scout axle is wider than the factory CJ axle, so you can see the center of the frame, these bolts, this is where the spring perch used to mount, and we had to move it outboard. So if we didn't, when we tried to center this axle in, the spring would be trying to go right through this center section. So you'd have to essentially shift the whole axle to the driver's side, and I know some guys will cut down on the driver's side to bring that in to work with the factory spring mounts, but instead of doing that, we just moved them outboard. So you can see where those made a plate, and those bolts are now sort of outside of the frame. And then the same thing on the back side. The spring would normally be right in the center of the frame here, so we moved that out to make that the front axle work. So now under the Jeep we can see a little bit better. We can see the exhaust, all of the headers, and then these pipes before the collector are all wrapped with heat wrap to try and keep as much heat out of the tub, as well as you can see the slave cylinders right there, so we obviously don't want to heat that up too much. I've had some issues in the past with boiling clutch fluid, and then losing the clutch is never really a fun experience. Then it goes back into a thrush, welded, and then 2.5-inch exhaust all the way out to the back. And here we can see the ladder bar setup. Now with leaf springs, especially going over the axle like we are, and with such a flat arch to the leaf springs, with the V8, it'd be pretty easy to get what's called axle wrap, which is where as you start to put power down, the front of the axle wants to go up, essentially the opposite direction of the tires. And if the springs are soft enough, the whole axle will start to tip, and then you can end up blowing out U-joints or drive shafts. So that's what this bar does, is just to keep that axle from rolling sort of front to back. Another thing we've done to the Jeep is add or tied in the roll bar to the frame. So you can see we have one there, one in the back, and then there's one up in the front as well. And so what this does, the factory roll bar is just bolted to the tub with little nutserts. And so as the tubs get older, if you were to roll, those nutserts can actually rip out. And so what this does, obviously, it links or bolts that roll cage directly to the frame. So there is a bushing in here because we still have rubber body mounts. So as the body flexes, this will have some flex too, so that it won't start to eat away at the tub as the tub flexes, but the roll cage wouldn't be able to. Alright, so that's pretty much a quick overview of my CJ, what's been done to it so far. Like I said, you can follow along now on the channel to see what we're going to be doing to it going forward. I gotta fix, it's either I got a bent wheel or bent axle shaft in the rear here, and then I'm going to be going through the fuel system, ripping the lines all out, converting over to AN. So I'll have videos on both of those coming up. But if you like this Jeep, or if you have any questions, if there was anything that I maybe sort of glazed over, just drop it in the comment section below. And if you want, you can subscribe, and then you'll be following up on what we're doing with the CJ here. And maybe you can get it out on the trails a few times this year. Alright, thanks for watching, but now I gotta get to work on this thing. Thanks, bye.